Come. Applaud. Applaud. Applaud.
All right, thank you very much. So apologies for my Swedish not quite being up to standard yet, so I will go ahead in English, but feel free to catch me afterwards if you're not catching anything. So I'm just going to talk about some of the initiatives we've been doing in Haglos, and talking about the challenges that we've had with those initiatives in terms of achieving any level of scale on some of this. And I hope it informs some thinking, both from the government side on how they can support brands on scaling up and getting beyond pilot scale, but also service providers who are here that could then be working with brands to address some of those issues. But let's start here. Outdoor brands make products that are slightly different to most fashion brands, for example, and there's some very specific issues with that cause us challenges when it comes to the circular economy. We're making products with very high performance standards and technical specifications. We have multi-layered fabrics, taped seams, chemical finishes, and I've put longevity here in as a challenge because we make products that are going to go out to the market for 5-10 years. So how do we think of those products and getting them back, and in what state do they come back after that length of time? But let's start here. This is the easiest place to get into the circular economy for a brand, buying recycled fabrics. It's coming very common now. You can see the volume of that really ramping up. We can today get really consistent quality level. We can buy it in large volumes, and we can get a large variety of different fabrics. So this is really quite easy. Our design teams don't really need to change anything. Our production doesn't need to change anything. We just buy it off the shelf. And this is important when coming to think of other areas. There are traceability challenges, and I think this is potentially an area that's going to be challenging in the future as more people are using recycled fabrics. There's a potential for bad actors in the supply chain. Brands are willing to pay more for this stuff, but we cannot prove it's recycled. Right? And so there is an opportunity for somebody to be selling us non-recycled fabrics for an extra upcharge. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is the movement of waste internationally to make these recycled fabrics. So that's more regular. Leftover, and it was great to hear the presentation just now on leftover fabrics. This is a fun challenge for designers. They are limited to a number of fabrics that they can use that we happen to have in our factory, and they are challenged to make an interesting product from leftover fabrics. There is a traceability challenge, though, and I think some service providers are starting to get there, but particularly in Asia, for example, where all of these fabrics are, the large quantities in factories in Asia. How do we know what is the quality of the fabric, and really importantly, what are the chemicals on those fabrics? I worry about how chemical regulations have changed quite rapidly over the last few years. So if I take a leftover fabric that's been lying for 5 years, I don't know if it today meets today's regulations on things like the water repellents, for example. So how do we get some traceability in there so that we can be confident to use other people's leftovers? Because today I can use my leftover fabrics because I kind of know what they are, but I go into the factory and I can see all of those rolls of fabrics from all the other brands, but I don't really want to use them at the moment. There's a challenge because they're limited runs, and we work on a big commercial scale, and limited runs is quite expensive for us. And I kind of would challenge that we should just be reducing the amount of leftover in the first place. That's really the better way to get around this problem. An even bigger challenge, this is kind of the biggest challenge to do, but it has been a great learning experience, is taking product, deconstructing it, and reconstructing it into something that's a high performance level. So there's lots of examples where you're taking a product and you're kind of downcycling it into something else. But how do you take product that's out there and upcycle it and still get that performance level? This is the biggest challenge. This is completely uncommercial, but it's an interesting thought process for our design teams and product teams to be thinking about it. I think if it was something that could be scaled, you would have to have large quantities of the same product to deconstruct that and reconstruct it, because you've got too many little bits of different types of products and fabrics to deal with. Repair wear, this covers a wide range of things. This covers everything from repair services to product that comes slightly damaged from a factory where it gets repaired and resold, or looking at reselling second-hand product. And here we have a challenge that technical product can sometimes be more expensive to repair than replace, and that's a real challenge. So it's quite easy to repair a cotton t-shirt or a pair of jeans, but not necessarily a Gore-Tex 3-layer jacket, ski jacket. And to maintain a repair service for a really wide range of products is very challenging. So I love Nudie Jeans. They're doing all of that repair stuff on jeans. It's the same replacement parts, it's the same machines required to replace it, but you need very different machines to repair a waterproof jacket versus a down jacket versus some hiking trousers, and getting scale behind that's really difficult and challenging. And then we have this other piece. How do we guarantee the quality of product that's second-hand? We have to do a lot of work on that product to feel confident that we can resell it again with the Haglos brand on it. So some thoughts. There's been lots of progress in this area, especially on the use of recycled fabrics, and a lot of people trying pilot-scale projects. But there are real barriers to scaling up, especially at large brand scale. I would suggest there's a real role for governments to play here, where we can look at national or regional systems. So the first example with recycled fabrics, that is a waste that's plastic bottles that are collected on national and regional scales, standardized waste collection that's then put into a system that gives us standardized products to work with. So we really need those kind of systems to work well, and it links into the next point about short loops. So if you're trying to recycle just your own product, it's super inefficient. So getting back a Haglos jacket, repairing it and reselling it, it's actually a really inefficient way of doing that. And what we need are national or regional scale systems to bring back product on scale and not necessarily within an individual brand. It's a nice story to do it within the brand, but actually to scale it up has to be in a much wider system. And the short loop things also talks to the point of not thinking about the textile industry as one closed system. How do we use that waste in other systems, or how do we use waste from other industries in our system? Going too closed loop is really limiting, so we need to think bigger. And again, that's why the recycled fabric works. That's waste from another industry, and it's coming to us, and so it's bigger thinking. One size does not fit all. What works for a cotton t-shirt is not going to work for a ski jacket, and the solution for one might be completely detrimental versus the solution for the other. And then the big challenge on a lot of this is traceability. What is the quality of the fabrics we're dealing with? What are the chemicals of the fabrics we're dealing with? So these are some of the things that we've been learning, and we would love to talk to people who are thinking about addressing some of these challenges to help scale up solutions in the industry. Thank you very much.